Hey y'all, it's Zoe and welcome back to another video on my channel and to another video for National Adoption Awareness Month. So this video is something I've talked about a lot of times. Actually, I talked about it in 2020 when I was thinking about becoming an organ donor for a family member, and then I talked about it also again in 2020 when I was hospitalized. And so I'm just going to be talking a little more about it. I guess this would be like part 3. I'm sure I've talked about it a bazillion times in between that I don't necessarily remember. I'm just going to be talking a little bit about just the struggles with medical history, more so in relation to more recent events. If you were watching my videos over the summer, I posted a video on why I came home early. I just finished my time in Taiwan. I was there for a year teaching English, and my original plan was to kind of stay in East Asia and just have some fun summer vacationing time, exploring some countries. I was gonna go back to China, which I haven't been to in a long time, but I ended up coming home for a family emergency, and what that emergency turned out to be was that my sister was diagnosed with cancer. I'll probably film like a separate cancer update video with her permission. Maybe she'll want to say something in there as well. So that's kind of been in the back of my mind for a while, and one day I came across, I don't know if it was a post on Instagram, I'm not really sure what it was, but basically what I came across was that cancer was genetic. And the idea is that it's caused by a change in the genes that control how cells grow and multiply, basically. So essentially when you're born, right, you have DNA from your mom and DNA from your dad. So an egg and a sperm both will have DNA, and that DNA is made up of genes, and these genes basically tell you what you're gonna look like, if you're gonna have black hair, if you're gonna be tall, if you're gonna be short, but they can also carry diseases and disorders in your DNA, such as Down syndrome or cerebral palsy, or increased likelihood to suffer from this, and this. In the mental health field, we hear a lot about nature versus nurture, and also if you have family members who have suffered from mental health, most likely you will be too, because you're genetically predisposed, which basically just means it's started to kind of root in your genetics. It's a little complicated. I tried to explain it the best that I could. So the idea with the cancer is that while it's not, you can't catch it, it's not contagious, but it can be passed down in the sense that your DNA and your genes can have certain changes in them that allow the cancer to form, grow, and spread. And so you can be exposed to things that will like cause cancer, such as, you know, they always tell you to put sunscreen on because of skin cancer. So that's kind of things like that. So basically, when you add that to the DNA, it basically just means that it can cause it to flare, I think. I'm not a scientist. I'm literally reading this off a website, so I will put the link down below. But basically, you can't really pass it down. Like, you can't really give your child a cancer, but it's basically a change that increases the risk. So kind of like with mental health, like I was mentioning before, you can't pass down depression or anxiety, but it might increase the risk if you suffer from it yourself. It might increase the risk of your child also suffering from it, just because that is just how humans work. And it also kind of ties back to history. If you look at the history of African Americans in the US, like genetics, it's like that's like a whole separate science, but I think it's really interesting and really crazy. So basically the point of all of this is just thinking about how we don't know our medical history. Like, I have always wondered for the longest time if I were to get cancer, if I were to get Alzheimer's, dementia. Like, I don't know that. And now it's like it's happened to my family, and so that's just crazy to think about. And one of the major motivations for searching for my birth family, I made a couple videos about that, was because of my medical history. Because when I was put in the hospital and I had to go through all of these tests to figure out why I had blood clots, why my platelet count was going down, like all of this stuff connected back to my medical history, my genetics, my DNA. And like, if I needed a bone marrow transplant, I would need a genetic relative. When I think about my sister and I think about her diagnosis, I think a lot about she doesn't know her medical history either. And that could be me. That could literally be any adoptee I know who could get sick. I have done 23andMe, but it does have something like in the test that tells you if you're like an increased likelihood to develop certain things. But again, I don't know how accurate it is, and it's not as accurate as, you know, having a first person account. So I think about the people in my life who have grandparents who've gotten sick, who might have something like dementia, or whose parents have suffered from mental health, and they know, they're like, yeah, it's possible I will develop dementia. Or like, my family on my dad's side developed cancer, like I might get it too. So it's like being able to know that, like, yes, it's scary. I don't want cancer. I don't want them to get cancer, but just being able to know there's a possibility, like you're able to possibly have preventative care. Like if you know that you might develop depression or anxiety, then you might be able to do something preventative for that, like get treatment for it. Same thing with like schizophrenia. Like if your parent had schizophrenia, you're at an increased likelihood to develop it. So maybe you can start working on how to manage symptoms, or like what's gonna happen when they start. So it's just a whole bunch of what ifs, and our whole life is kind of what ifs, at least for closed adoptions. And I think international tend to be more what if than domestic, but we don't know why we were given up, so that's a what if. We kind of been here our whole lives. That's another what if. Like, what if we had stayed? What if we had never been given up? And so now you have this added component of medical history of like, what if I have this? What if I have that? And so it's just something that I've been thinking about a lot. And you can get testing done. You can get like testing done to see if you've inherited a change in your DNA that causes an increased risk for cancer. But tests are expensive, you know, like it's very expensive. I'm sure you might have to get your blood drawn, which some people might not like. And it's also, you know, hiring people that work with genetics will be hard. So it's just nice being able to know that. And so that's definitely one of the struggles that I feel a lot. And every time I have to go to the doctors and fill out forms, like it's definitely difficult. But, you know, you just kind of take what you're given and you move on. And I'm just taking it day by day, and maybe I'll look into getting more genetic testing when I'm older, but I don't know for sure. And I have considered going into genetics, but I don't think I am really fit for STEM. Like, I love the topic and I'm super interested in it, but I really am more of a social science person. I don't think I could be stuck in a lab all the time. I will read about it, I will educate myself about it, but I'm just more suited for social environments. So if you're out there watching and you do work with genetics, I give you props. I am super interested in it. I've always been interested in it ever since I learned it in freshman biology class in high school. So, but yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to make this video about, was just talking through my thoughts on unknown medical histories and the struggles with that, and mostly in relation to my sister's diagnosis and the possibility that I could get diagnosed with it at some point in my life too, and I will never know when that will happen. It's also just kind of, it feels very sudden for her. So and she's also super young, and also this is like a super rare form of cancer as well. Lots of unknowns, lots of could this have been prevented if we had known, just lots of things to think about. So yeah, that's kind of all I really wanted to say. I know I rambled on a lot about genetics, but like I said, I'll put the link down below for the website that I was reading. And if you are interested in talking more about it, let me know in the comments down below. If there's any other topics that you want me to cover during this month, let me know. Otherwise, I will come up with something to talk about. I'm sure something will happen in this next week for me to talk about. So I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.